What are you doing here? Leave now or I will arrest you.
You don't belong here. Leave now. The words hit like a punch. Dr. Marcus Henderson froze mid-bite. His fork hovered in the air. Tyler, 9, dropped his crayons. Maya, 7, clutched her mother's hand, eyes wide. Angela Henderson's heart raced. What had they done? They were just having lunch. Officer Keith Morrison had been called to Betty's diner for a disturbance. He didn't know what he would find. Or rather, he thought he already knew. 4 black diners in a booth. To him, they didn't belong. His 14 years on the force had taught him to trust his instincts. In this case, his instincts were wrong. The diner was busy but peaceful. Families laughed softly, children colored quietly. A white couple whispered to the manager moments earlier. Someone had complained. That was enough for Morrison. He stepped toward the Hendersons, shoulders square, hands brushing his duty belt. Authority dripped from every step. Marcus's voice shook. Officer, we just ordered. We haven't done anything wrong. What is happening? Angela's voice, calm but firm, added. We're here with our children. We are not causing a disturbance. Please explain. Morrison ignored her questions. Leave voluntarily or I will make this an arrest. The Hendersons felt the weight of the uniform, the badge, the authority. Tyler looked up at his father, searching for answers that weren't coming. Maya's small sobs broke the tense silence. Every second stretched unbearably. A simple Sunday lunch had turned into an accusation, a threat, a test of dignity under fire. Marcus swallowed, trying to steady his voice. We paid for our food. We haven't done anything wrong. Please, just tell us, what is the complaint? Angela placed her hand protectively over her children's shoulders. We have every right to be here. We are not leaving because someone is uncomfortable with our presence. Morrison's jaw tightened. He didn't speak, just stared, confident in the righteousness of his call. But in his rush to enforce authority, he had forgotten one crucial fact. Every word, every gesture, every moment of this confrontation was being recorded. The camera on his chest would later become the evidence that destroyed his career. In that moment, the Henderson family sat frozen, caught between fear and disbelief. 4 lives balanced on the edge of injustice. And 1 officer's overconfidence. What was meant to be a quiet lunch had become the beginning of a battle that would shake a city, challenge a police department, and expose the truth of systemic discrimination. You need to leave. Now. Morrison's voice cut through the diner again, sharper this time. Dr. Henderson set down his fork, hands trembling slightly. Officer, we're just eating. We haven't done anything wrong. We just ordered our food. Morrison didn't flinch. I've had complaints. You're causing a disturbance. Leave voluntarily or I will make this an arrest. Tyler looked up at his father, eyes wide. Dad, what's happening? Marcus's heart sank. He crouched slightly to meet his son's gaze. It's okay, son. Just stay calm. Angela Henderson slowly raised her hand. Officer, we are sitting quietly. We're not causing any trouble. Please tell us what we did. Morrison leaned closer, hand brushing his belt, eyes cold. That's not your concern. Leave. Maya clung to her mother, quiet sobs escaping. Angela held her tight, whispering, It's going to be all right, sweetie. But inside she felt a rising panic. They had done nothing wrong. Nothing. Yet here was a man in uniform threatening them, wielding power over their lives in a moment of unchecked bias. Marcus swallowed hard. Officer, we paid for our food. We have every right to be here. Can you please just explain what the complaint is? Morrison's jaw tightened. Sir, I don't explain complaints. You leave. The tension in the diner thickened. Other customers paused, forks midair, whispers floating around. Some stared, some fidgeted. But no one intervened. 4 people sat frozen, vulnerable under authority that offered no justification. Angela reached slowly for her phone. I'm recording this, she said, calm and deliberate. Morrison's eyes flicked briefly to the device. Put that away or I'll confiscate it, he snapped. Marcus's hand instinctively moved over Tyler's shoulder, protective, firm. We have done nothing illegal. You cannot remove us for simply being here. Morrison's posture stiffened. He stepped closer, his tone sharper, almost threatening. Leave now. I am giving you one chance. Angela's voice rose slightly, steady and controlled. We are your citizens. We pay taxes. We have rights. And we are not leaving because someone else is uncomfortable with our presence. The children watched silently, absorbing every moment. Fear, confusion, and the weight of authority hung over them. Marcus held their gaze, trying to convey calm, to reassure, but even he felt the anger building inside. The restaurant seemed to pause. every heartbeat echoing in the silence between threats and pleas. Morrison's overconfidence blinded him to one crucial factor. Every word, every gesture, every intimidation was being recorded. That camera on his chest, meant to protect him, was capturing the truth that would later unravel his career. Angela lowered her phone slightly, but kept it pointed toward him. "We have every right to sit here, and we're not leaving until this is addressed properly." Morrison opened his mouth, hesitated. For the first time, his authority was being challenged. And yet, he didn't retreat. The confrontation was escalating, the stakes growing by the second. This was no longer just a lunch. It was a collision of power, prejudice, and justice waiting to be revealed. Before Marcus could speak again, a voice cut through the tense air. "Officer Morrison, what's going on here?" Bill Thompson, the owner of Betty's Diner, stepped out from the kitchen, eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. His voice carried authority born not from a badge but from ownership and decades of running the diner. Morrison straightened, chest puffed. "I received a complaint about a disturbance. I'm handling it." Thompson's gaze swept over the Henderson family, then back to Morrison. "A disturbance? From who? I've been in the kitchen. Nobody told me about any problem." Morrison hesitated slightly. "One of your customers called it in." "These people need to leave." Thompson moved closer, placing himself strategically between the officer and the family. "Dr. Henderson, Mrs. Henderson, have you been causing any problems?" "No, sir," Marcus said, voice steadier now. Angela nodded, holding her children close. Thompson turned to Morrison, his tone firm, unyielding. "There's no disturbance. They are customers who paid for their food, and I do not remove paying customers because someone is uncomfortable with their presence." Morrison's hand brushed his belt again, tension visible. "Sir, I suggest you reconsider. The police department has a good relationship with your business. You wouldn't want that to change." Thompson didn't flinch. "I don't care about relationships. You are trying to kick out a family who has done nothing wrong. That is discrimination." Angela, holding her phone now, spoke up calmly but firmly. "I am recording this. You are threatening a business owner for refusing to discriminate against us. We have broken no laws. Any arrest would have consequences." Morrison's face tightened. He glanced at the phone, then back at Thompson. "Put that away." "No," Angela said. "I have every right to document this, and these are my children, and my husband. You cannot remove us for sitting quietly and paying for our food." Thompson's presence alone seemed to push Morrison back. "Officer, these customers are welcome here. Now leave my diner." For the first time, Morrison paused. Authority, once absolute in his eyes, was being questioned openly. The tension between uniform and ownership, law and justice, prejudice and principle, filled the diner. Morrison's jaw clenched. He took a step forward, then another, as if asserting control. Thompson didn't move. Angela and Marcus stayed calm, steady, protective of their children, refusing to yield to fear. The room was silent, except for the quiet hum of conversation frozen midair. Every moment stretched, every second escalating the stakes. Morrison was about to make a choice: enforce bias and risk exposure, or step back under the weight of undeniable moral authority. In that moment, a simple diner became a battleground. A family's dignity, a business owner's principle, and an officer's unchecked authority collided, setting in motion events that would not only change lives but expose systemic wrongdoing. Morrison's overconfidence had met resistance, and for the first time the consequences of his actions loomed larger than his authority. Morrison's hand hovered over his belt. He took a step back, momentarily frozen. The weight of Thompson's stance, Angela's unwavering gaze, and Marcus's protective presence pressed down on him. He realized, too late, that this confrontation was no longer under his control. "Sir, I suggest you comply," Morrison said, his voice tighter now, less confident. But Thompson didn't budge. "You are making a mistake," Thompson replied firmly. "These customers have done nothing wrong. Now leave my diner." Morrison's chest rose and fell rapidly. The authority he had wielded without question for 14 years felt suddenly fragile. The camera on his chest, rolling silently, captured every micro-expression, every tense gesture, every flicker of doubt. This device, meant to protect him, was chronicling the moment his overreach collided with reality. Angela adjusted her phone, keeping it pointed at him. "Officer, you've been recorded from multiple angles. You're threatening a family, unlawfully. Step away." Morrison's eyes darted briefly to the Henderson children, frozen, small faces filled with fear. His training told him to assert control, but instinct and hesitation tangled in a knot he couldn't untangle. With a grunt, he finally pivoted, stepping toward the exit. Each movement was captured, his hands tightening, jaw clenching, shoulders stiff. The diner's patrons watched silently, sensing the shift in power. Whispers spread like ripples across a pond. As he walked out, the camera on his chest recorded the full exit, the relieved murmur of diners, the supportive glances from strangers, the Hendersons exhaling slowly, and Thompson's steady reassurance. Every word, every motion, every reaction was documented with brutal clarity. Once outside, Morrison returned to his patrol car. He uploaded the footage to the department server, following protocol. In his mind, he had acted correctly. In reality, he had documented his own misconduct, his bias, his threats, and his aggressive targeting of a peaceful family. The Hendersons sat back down, still trembling, holding each other close. Marcus looked at Angela. They saw everything, he whispered. Angela nodded, eyes still on her children. And now everyone else will see it, T. Ooh. What Morrison didn't realize was that this single recording would ignite a cascade of accountability. It would be subpoenaed by attorneys, replayed in courtrooms, and compared against dozens of similar incidents. His own equipment had captured a clear, irrefutable pattern of discriminatory behavior that no report could obscure. The quiet diner, once filled with tension and fear, now hummed with relief and a sense of justice pending. The Hendersons had survived the immediate threat, but the battle for accountability was only beginning. A simple Sunday lunch had become a historic moment, one where courage, principle, and the undeniable clarity of recorded truth would hold a powerful officer accountable. The stage was set for consequences that would reverberate far beyond Betty's diner. 3 days later, the Henderson family filed a formal complaint with the Lakewood Police Department. They submitted written statements, witness accounts, and phone recordings. But the real game changer was Morrison's own body camera footage, the unfiltered, undeniable record of his actions. Internal Affairs began reviewing every frame. The video showed Morrison approaching the family aggressively, issuing threats, ignoring their questions, and attempting to intimidate both the Hendersons and the diner owner. His report, which claimed the family had left voluntarily after a disturbance complaint, was instantly contradicted. The footage told a different story, one of bias, abuse of authority, and systemic discrimination. Civil rights organizations quickly took interest. Requests for transparency revealed a troubling pattern. Morrison's record included 23 prior complaints over 12 years, mostly alleging harassment or discriminatory enforcement. In 12 of those incidents, his body camera had not been activated, conveniently leaving no official record. But for the ones that were captured, the footage showed him repeatedly targeting people of color at local businesses, forcing them to leave for no legitimate reason. The federal U.S. Attorney's Office opened an investigation. Morrison's sergeant, previously aware of his actions, was implicated as a co-conspirator in a broader pattern of civil rights violations. Emails surfaced showing departmental knowledge of Morrison's selective enforcement and tacit approval of discrimination. The chain of command had allowed bias to persist under the guise of maintaining order. Meanwhile, the Hendersons filed a civil lawsuit against Morrison, his sergeant, and the Lakewood Police Department. Their attorneys used Morrison's body camera footage as the cornerstone of their case. High-definition video and crystal-clear audio from the officer's own device left no room for dispute. Every threat, every biased comment, every attempt to remove a peaceful family from a public diner was irrefutably documented. The city recognized the strength of the evidence immediately. Settlement discussions began. The footage, combined with public outcry and media attention, made it clear that a trial would be both damaging and indefensible. Negotiations concluded with a landmark $1.8 million settlement for the Henderson family. The agreement also mandated sweeping reforms, independent civilian oversight with investigative authority, mandatory bias training with quarterly testing for all officers, strict body camera activation policies with severe penalties for non-compliance, public reporting of all business removals and demographic data, compensation fund for 47 other victims of discriminatory enforcement, totaling $400,000. Morrison faced separate federal charges for conspiracy to deprive civil rights and deprivation of rights under color of law. The trial presented his body camera footage in stunning clarity, showing his RN of targeting minorities. Testimonies from the Hendersons, other victims, and statistical experts painted a picture of repeated unchecked abuse of authority. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Morrison was convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to 3 years and 10 months in federal prison. His sergeant received 18 months after pleading guilty prior to trial. The case became a defining example of accountability, demonstrating that even entrenched authority could be exposed when technology captured the truth. Betty's Diner saw a surge in support from customers, and Thompson posted a permanent policy: all customers are welcome. Discrimination is not tolerated. The Hendersons used part of their settlement to establish the Henderson Equal Access Fund, providing legal representation for victims of discrimination who couldn't afford attorneys. The irony was undeniable. Morrison's body camera, intended to protect him, had instead recorded the evidence that ended his career and forced systemic reform. What began as a Sunday lunch had transformed into a landmark case, proving that courage, documentation, and standing up to injustice could change the course of history. The Henderson family returned to their daily lives, but the shadow of that Sunday lunch never fully disappeared. Marcus and Angela often reflected on how a simple act, standing up calmly, documenting the abuse, and relying on principle, had turned a moment of fear into a catalyst for change. Betty's Diner became more than a place to eat. It became a symbol. Patrons came not just for the food, but to support a business that refused to bow to discrimination. Thompson's unwavering stance reminded everyone that courage wasn't just in courts or protests. It could happen in a small diner booth, face-to-face with authority. The case set a precedent. Law schools cited it, civil rights organizations referenced it. Policies across the city were rewritten to ensure that body cameras weren't just tools for officers. They were instruments of accountability, and those 47 other victims received restitution, their voices finally acknowledged in a system that had often ignored them. Morrison served his federal sentence, maintaining his claim that he had just been doing his job. But the irrefutable footage, the evidence of bias, threats, and abuse, remained a permanent record of what had truly happened. His own camera had captured the truth, and that truth reshaped the law, public awareness, and the lives of everyone involved. For the Hendersons, the settlement allowed them to create the Henderson Equal Access Fund, ensuring that other victims of discrimination could fight back even when resources were scarce. Their children, Tyler and Maya, would grow up knowing that justice sometimes required patience, courage, and the will to document wrongs even in the face of fear. The lesson was clear: technology can expose the hidden, challenge authority, and protect the innocent. A single Sunday lunch, a family simply doing what millions do every weekend, eating, talking, living, became a turning point. And while Officer Morrison's career ended in disgrace, the impact of that day rippled far beyond the diner walls, leaving a permanent mark on civil rights enforcement and proving that standing up to injustice, even quietly, can change history.